apologizing to my fellow commissioners regarding the way I made an announcement before I left the July 28th meeting. I know I caught you off guard, and I know that there was some concern about that. At the time, I believed I was alerting you to an important eventuality that I'd only discovered a day before. The CCC is already understaffed and overworked, with several key positions unfilled for many months. We have a lot of work to do just to finish the work on municipal equity regulations. I was privy to information that I believed would place greater pressure on how we manage the commission, and I believed I had a statutory duty to address that situation. This discovery was time sensitive, and as you know, open meeting law prevents me from speaking privately about business with my fellow commissioners. I believe that even with a delegation memo to identify employees who can sign off on needed approvals, a long gap without a leader could create confusion, lack of continuity, and prevent the commission from transparently and efficiently doing its job to serve the public. We have a lean but talented staff overseeing a $1 billion a year industry, and under the best of circumstances, it's a challenge. Again, I sincerely apologize for any confusion I created, but I believed I was alerting my fellow commissioners to an urgent situation that we needed to address to preserve the commission's interest, and I was doing it in a public forum as required by open meeting law. You know, within weeks of my being appointed chair of the commission, the Boston Globe wrote an editorial with the headline, "The Cannabis Control Commission needs to right its regulatory ship." It's long past time for commissioners, including the new chair, to demand a role in an investigatory process instead of leaving it to the commission bureaucracy. Boston Globe also editorialized in April of this year about lack of transparency and accountability. It begins by rightly praising the work done by the executive director, the staff, and the inaugural group of commissioners. It stated, quote, "Standing up a new agency and industry from scratch is challenging, particularly with the complications caused by federal prohibition." I echo what the Globe has stated. What has been accomplished by our commission and our staff in setting up a new, highly regulated industry has been an amazing feat, and they all deserve congratulations. With the hard work of our staff, Massachusetts has set the standard for other jurisdictions to follow. However, nearly 6 years in, I believe it's time for the commission to do some sharp self-reflection to determine if doing the same things we started doing in 2018 makes sense at this point in time. I believe it's time for us to assess how we've been conducting the work of this agency and make necessary pivots to ensure we are having the impact that was promised when this law was first passed by the voters of Massachusetts. Going forward, I have a few goals I'd like to achieve, and I would hope to work collaboratively with my fellow commissioners to make them a reality. We need to ensure that our testing labs are honest brokers and patients and consumers have safe products that are accurately tested. With our biotech industry, world-class universities and hospitals, Massachusetts has the opportunity to lead in the area of cannabis medical research. We need to lobby for investment in a center of cannabis research that will reap many benefits in terms of future economic development, and we can be leaders to help people more fully understand the benefits and drawbacks of cannabis use. Plummeting prices have created serious problems for all cannabis businesses. We need to act quickly to make changes to the original, highly restrictive regulations passed during the first years of legalized recreational cannabis. We can protect the health and safety of our citizens while reducing overly cumbersome and costly regulatory burdens, which will help more businesses achieve and maintain profitability. Of greatest concern to me is the need to honestly determine if we're meeting our mandate and doing enough to help social equity and economic empowerment entrepreneurs become licensees who enjoy the economic benefits of this $1 billion a year industry. BBJ reporter Cassie McGrath just wrote an article yesterday pointing out that the promise of equity participation in the licensed cannabis business has not been kept. Quote, "Between higher rent, higher taxes, strict regulations, advertising restrictions, and the fact that the market is growing more saturated, many cannabis businesses are struggling, and equity businesses face even greater challenges." Just last week, I convened a meeting with the team from Economic Affairs and Mass Development to determine how the currently limited social equity fund can be leveraged to get more money out the door quickly. I'm seeking to convene a meeting with cannabis-friendly banks to see how they can participate in this. The doors of opportunity are closing, and it's up to us to take quick action to ensure that we help as many people as possible achieve success. My personal goal is to increase the number of social equity entrepreneurs that commence operations from the current, I believe the number is 59, to at least 75 by the end of next year. This will take a lot of coordinated effort. And that's why I've called for us to take a look at what we're currently doing and determine how we can move the ball forward to keep this promise to promote ownership among social equity entrepreneurs. We should partner with the Social Equity Fund Advisory Board and other stakeholders to creatively help social equity entrepreneurs get the resources they need. I want to thank Commissioners Camargo and Concepcion for their tireless efforts on social equity and suitability. I want to thank Commissioner Roy for her work around prevention and supporting veterans. I want to thank Commissioner Stebbins for the work he's done to keep young drivers safe and for championing small businesses. Today, we're going to be looking at micro business. You know, a year ago, we passed Chapter 180, or the legislature passed Chapter 180. We still have not completed the regulatory writing process. We began late. Bill was passed in August. We were not convened to do this regulatory writing until about February of this year. And so one of the things I want to, ask my fellow commissioners is going forward. I think that the next round of regulations just can't wait. And that rather than us being driven by the staff or led by the staff, I think that we need to come to consensus as to what those priorities are. And I think that we need to start, I would like to start assigning work groups. Now, it's my understanding there is a work group that's already been in place. I was not aware that there was currently a work group on two driver rule. But I would like us to look at testing. I would like us to look at research. I would like us to look at other sort of regulatory changes. And I'm going to be asking all of you in the next week or so if you could have private conversations with me so I can determine how we might best distribute this work going forward. Again, my apologies for creating any angst or any confusion, but again, I believe that given the limitations, given the time frame, given what I thought was ahead of us, I thought I was making the right decision under the law. So again, I'll pass that on to Commissioner Camargo.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your comments. The open meeting law doesn't allow us to have open conversations, so I think hearing your comments today, I think I appreciate it. I'll say a couple of comments about your comments, if I may. You thanked Commissioner Concepcion and I for social equity. I want to say thank you to everybody because it's really not just Commissioner Concepcion and I. I think everyone, even before you got here, has been working on equity. Commissioner Roy, Commissioner Stebbins, and I know even before that, the chair before that. So I want to just make sure because I think sometimes we sort of get signaled out as the folks that are working on equity. Myself and Commissioner Concepcion, and that's not the reality. We are working on it, but it has been a team effort at the commission. So I just want to kind of say that. And thank you for the self-reflection that you mentioned. I think we all need it at times. I think in that case, I just want to remind us commissioners, I think it's fair to say, right? I'm happy we're talking about the elephant in the room. Our last meeting was, it was disruptive and uncomfortable. And I think that for commissioners, we are appointed by appointing authorities. There's no one really policing us except our appointing authorities and our team and our staff that sometimes will, tell us what we're doing wrong. But I want to go back to Robert's Rules of Order. I want to remind folks that, we have tools, we have the legal team. For myself, I did a lot of reflection, from the last meeting because I was confused. And maybe what should I said to you should have been like, point of order, right? So that we can sort of pause and see where we're at. But I just want to remind us that we did, take on Robert's Rules of Order and we need to use it because otherwise our meetings will become what last meeting was, right? So I just want to kind of say that to us as commissioners, use the tools, talk to legal, and I think it's just putting it into practice, right? And giving ourselves the time to sort of take a break and say, okay, wait, what's going on here right now? Can we have a point on order? Can we have a, point of information for a second? So I wanted to just share that with you all this morning. To staff, I just want to say that and I've said this many a times, I appreciate you all. There's some of you here today. You guys work tirelessly. And, the chair, you said it in your comments as well. It is not easy to work as a public servant. We get criticized left and right we criticize y'all criticize us, the media, the folks outside. It's very difficult. I know that folks are committed at this place. So I just want to say thank you I know there's anxiety and emotions sort of going around within the team and staff about how are the commissioners going to act today? What's going to happen today? Is it going to be disruptive? What's going to end up in the paper? So I just want to say to you all, I think that we need to continue to lead. We are the leadership of this commission, and we're the role models. And it is up to us to really set the tone for this commission of how we treat each other, how we work with each other, and how do we move forward. Madam Chair, to your point, there's a lot of work to do, and it's time to sort of really look at regs and figure out how do we help the industry. So I just want to say that to our team, and to the media. I just want to say to y'all, we have a communications team, use them. We have you guys, there's 5 commissioners. You can email us, fact check before you write stories. We all know that stories sell, but stories also impact us as people and as human in our day-to-day lives, with our families, with our kids, our spouses, and even our health and our mental health. So I want to just say, use our communications team when you want to do some fact finding. And I'm excited to be here today. I know there's a lot of work to do. Madam Chair, I know we'll talk a little bit about the 2-driver rule and some of the stuff that is on the agenda. I'm assuming that we packed the policy portion because we're not having another meeting in August. So I just wanted to make those comments, and thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Concepcion?
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you, Commissioner Camargo. So usually I'm known to not have comments prepared. I drive up here and I sort of let my mind and spirit guide me before I get here. Last meeting was unorthodox, and it was the comments, chairwoman, that you made around, I won't even reiterate at this point. It took away from the moment and from the work that so many people here have dedicated themselves to. And that has really lingered in my mind because it is beyond us. It showed a lack of consideration for the groundwork that was done by the prior iteration of the commission. It showed a lack of consideration for all the work that went into not just the regulations, but the creation of Chapter 180, the passage of that law, and the work that went into drafting all of those policies and considerations that are now available to the public. And I wanted to take a step back to really give that moment the attention it deserves, because I think that that was overshadowed, unfortunately. We know the prior commission, the commissioners here, we knew that there was change needed. We knew that there was a lot lacking in terms of equity, HCAs, everything that is contained within Chapter 180 as a result of commissioners, both current and prior, who understood that there was work to be done and there was no time to waste. In fact, if you look back on some of our meetings in the past, when we advocated for a Chapter 180, we discussed that. We discussed that there was no time to waste, that there are people whose livelihoods, whose lives depended on this. And I've said this multiple times, that I don't take this job lightly. I think that it comes across, I hope it comes across when I'm speaking to anyone about the work that we all do. And we're lucky to have a staff that really dedicates themselves to the mission of the Cannabis Control Commission. It's very clear and evident. And I've been fortunate. We talked about how I'm on all these working groups, so I helped in the drafting of every consideration that's contained in those drafts. And the benefit of that is that I've had the ability to really build and understand the team that we have here. And I know, and I have faith and trust in them because of the hours they put in, because of the dedication, because of the knowledge they have. Last meeting, Andrew Carter, Rebecca Lopez, Kyle Potvin, they did phenomenal. And I want to recognize them because they were able to really answer any and all questions that were thrown their way. They did so in a really concise, accurate manner. They put law above all else. And I just want to thank them and make sure that they get that recognition because that was overshadowed. The other thing I want to talk about is I want to extend my gratitude to former Chairman Hoffman, former Commissioner Doyle, former Commissioner McBride, former Commissioner Title, former Commissioner Flanagan, because the HCA reform started with them. And that is why we have these new regs now. That is why we have the Chapter 180. Commissioner Camargo and myself, we did bring the creation of the Social Equity Fund. That was something that we advocated for here in the public meeting. The creation of the executive and legislative outreach strategy. All of these things went into the creation and advocacy efforts around Chapter 180. It was not easy. It was not light. It took years. And when I say years, I mean from the creation of the commission. This is the first change to our laws, to cannabis laws in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts since 2017, and we're just now getting our drafts out. So, 2017 creation, 2022 is when this law was passed, and now we have our regs. So I feel like that is not, when we make comments about different articles that said that the time is now, we need change, this is the change. We're doing the change is here. So what I would advocate for anyone watching, please comment, please take a look at those drafts. It's really vital. This is our work. At our core, we're regulators. This is the core. This is what I'm here for. And I also want to be really, really clear that we are all one of 5 votes. And I feel like that gets a little bit misinterpreted as well in terms of the public. Everyone here has 1 vote. You need a majority to get anything passed. When anyone is speaking, they're speaking in their individual capacity unless we have voted on it, talked about it, and it's gone through a public conversation and public meeting. And I feel frustrated that I have the need to say that on the record. But the comments that were made in our last meeting, unfortunately, and it was misguided, they represented us all. And I cannot stand by that, because there was so much work put in. There were so many hours put in. We started way before February. This started years ago. And I just want to say thank you to everyone who has been a part of that process. Thank you to everyone who remains dedicated to the work, both internally and externally, because it's not about me. It's about the people who have been harmed by the war on drugs, and I talk about this frequently. It's about the people who are trying to get their lives together because they've committed so much of themselves to their businesses. And it's about the people who are working every day in this industry. So I have nothing more to add. If the spirit moves me to add anything more, I will, but that's what I have today. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Commissioner Roy?
Good morning, everyone, and I'm going to be really brief today. I just want to start by saying that I appreciate everyone's open and honest comments and discussion. I think it's vitally important for this board to be able to have that and to exercise that. I just want to say also, and I appreciate your comments, Commissioner Concepcion, about the work that went into this regulatory round, and highlighting Kyle Potvin, Director of Licensing and Enforcement Counsel, Rebecca Lopez, and our attorney, Andrew Carter, for their expertise and for their guidance. And while I did have to chair part of that meeting last time, so I truly am grateful for the 3 of them. And I did have a lot of questions, and they answered them all spectacularly. So thank you so much for that. I want to circle back to HCAs. On Friday, I was able to do a roundtable discussion with David O'Brien, hosted by David O'Brien in the CBA and Caroline's Cannabis, and we held it down in Uxbridge at Blissful Meadows, and about 50 licensees came, and all of us went through those draft regulations together as a group. And they were very grateful for our work, but our work is not done. There is more work to do. They had already highlighted during that roundtable areas of concern, angst, if you will, around maybe some loopholes that still exist. And Commissioner Concepcion, to your point, I said I'm one of 5. I'm one of 5. So based on our regulatory timeline, I believe September 8th will be the public hearing in person. I think many licensees, from what I'm hearing, plan on attending so they can testify in front of us. All 5 of us need to hear what I heard last Friday, so we can address some of these concerns around HCAs. So I look forward to that. And it was just, I'm so grateful to be able to do these roundtables. So again, thank you to Caroline's Cannabis and David O'Brien. I've been also busy on interview panels at the commission, and as we alluded to, we are, short-staffed, and there is a lot of work that goes on at this commission. So I'm grateful to have been, along with Commissioner Stebbins, on the CPO interview panel. I believe Debbie Hilton Creek will be starting, I think, 42 weeks from now. And so we welcome her. And also on the DGC interview panel, I was also on that. And I am hopeful that our legal team, who has worked so incredibly hard during this process, have been incredibly short-staffed, have the resources and manpower that they deserve coming their way. So I'm advocating for legal publicly and privately. I want you to know that. And I just want to thank all of our staff, and Kate Flanagan, I want to thank, who I transitioned from Kate to Grace, and I want to thank Kate, and I want to thank Grace, who have both been tremendous. And that's it. I just want to say that I look forward to constructive dialogue and an honest and open dialogue. And we have a lot of work to do. So thank you for my time.
Thank you, Commissioner Stebbins.
Wow. Usually I get to go last and I just say ditto, echo, echo, echo. I wish I had a little bit longer commute like Commissioner Concepcion, so I could think through a lot of these thoughts. And Madam Chair, I appreciate your comments, and want to reflect on something that Commissioner Concepcion raised, and that really was the great work that we did at the meetings 2 weeks ago. And I think helping everybody recognize the level of work, the level of dedication by this group of commissioners, the previous group of commissioners, some of the little milestones that Commissioner Concepcion touched on that got us to where we are. It started with a strategy where we could all be speaking as one voice and not as individual commissioners, because I think that brought a level of weight to our conversations with our counterparts on Beacon Hill. I think that translated to the legislature trusting us to handle a number of issues like host community agreements, like municipal equity, like, unfolding the opportunities around social consumption, all work that we continue to do. I've had the benefit of being an inaugural commissioner for a new industry, and now I'm having the benefit to work alongside all of you, and I don't just mean the 4 of you, but I mean our incredible team, in a different industry, at a different point. And what's unique about this industry is that this industry is innovative, it's faster, it's more entrepreneurial, it is moving at a pace that as regulators, we need to keep up with. Not to say that we're just going to make every change necessary, but at the same time, it's an industry that has much more competitive pressures than gaming. When gaming came to Massachusetts, we already had states around us that were doing that. Cannabis, we were the first in the Eastern Seaboard to allow adult use. Now other states are catching up to us. That means we as regulators still need to safeguard for public health and public safety, but ensuring opportunity, Chair, as you talked about, ensuring opportunity for folks that were disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs, those social equity program participants, those economic empowerment applicants who are looking for an opportunity. And it doesn't necessarily just need to be in the entrepreneurial space. And I'll talk about that a little bit more when we get to the SEP program cohort presentation. But there's a lot of work to do. We all just need to continue to focus on doing that job. I know our staff is. I'll add my shout out to Kyle and Andrew and Rebecca for their great work at the last meeting. But there's more to do. We're going to talk about some of those issues today. The work continues. Appreciated everybody's comments. also just my usual thanks to our team for helping to prepare for this meeting. I had a great opportunity to speak at the Let's Talk Weed event in Cambridge 2 weeks ago. Thanks to the folks from our team that showed up for the free food and maybe to hear myself and the great panel. But I appreciated Megan and the comms team and SCP team for showing up on a Friday night after a long week. It was nice to see everybody. So with that, turn it back to you, Chair.
Thank you. And with that, we'll move on to minutes for approval. We need to, are you gonna make a motion or?
Okay, make a motion to approve do you have the date on those minutes?
Geez, I don't. Oh, one second, quickly. Let's see. All right, let's see. Okay, so I'm looking for the next item is the approval of two sets of minutes from May 11th and May 22nd for public meetings. And I would entertain a motion to approve May 11th, 2023 meeting minutes. Would you care to make that motion?
So moved.
Commissioner Camargo, would you second that motion?